like Sunday morning. Wow.
Creepypastas, essentially the bargain bin straight-to-DVD movies of the internet writing world. The difference being that unlike Sand Sharks, people can't get enough of our Jeff. No matter how terrible, many of these things have lasted decades of relevance. The genre is living proof of a creative ethos that I wholeheartedly believe in. No matter how god-awful the execution, if a concept is good, someone will take it warts and all and use it well. The format, thanks to the relative anonymity of a lot of its writers, lends itself extremely well to remixes and reworks. I think one of the reasons creepypastas have remained so persistently popular despite everything about them being essentially cripplingly outdated is the DIY, almost punk way that it's all produced and tossed about from creator to creator. And this extends well beyond the writing. The last few years have seen a massive resurgence in the genre thanks to it finally being around long enough to become everyone's favourite thing that they also hate more than anything. Creators and artists that were kept awake at night as children thanks to the likes of Eyeless Jack and That Dog That Won't Quit Grinning at Me have now honed their own skills in creating nightmarish, childhood-scarring content, taking heavy inspiration from the ancient texts. At this point, these stories are essentially internet folklore, the classic literature of the digital age, as in when you actually sit down and read them, a lot of them are kind of bad and the original writer is probably into kids or violently racist. There's a million different stories that this topic could cover. There's people who have carved entire careers out of taking a forgotten pasta and sprucing it up with a brand new sauce. It's something I could see myself returning to time and time again. But just for tonight, I want to focus on one particular trend that I found endlessly endearing, a piece that has wrought awe, outrage, and everything in between. But before we go ahead and get ahead of ourselves, we have to set the scene. It's 2023 and the internet horror scene is in the throes of analog horror mania. It exploded a year before, but we're now in the era of just before the fatigue sets in, when anyone and everyone is trying their hand at googling how to do a VHS filter, and right before Photoshop's liquefy effect on a random face starts really pissing people off. During this, one particular running theme that's adopted is creating fake television hijackings, and amongst them, a little video with a very subtle title that's not on the nose at all, 06/06/2006 Nickelodeon Hijacking Incident, is uploaded. The video is very short and sweet, with the plot laid out being of a supposed Nickelodeon TV hijacking where the Spongebob episode Something Smells was interrupted suddenly by what at first seems like a glitch before then transforming into this. A distorted screen of Spongebob wailing in agony whilst endless flames burn behind him. We're shown a random low quality image of a vista before the broadcast returns. And then we are treated to the text, "Stephen, why would you murdered me? I thought we were husband and wife. Why did you kill me? Please tell me why." We are then treated to... So what the reveal is that the hijacker of the broadcast is the deceased wife of beloved celebrated real-life person who actually existed but passed away tragically and creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, Stephen Hillenburg. The point of the entire video is that the real-life famous and beloved public figure actually murdered his wife in cold blood, and the video ends with the words, "See you in hell, Stephen Hillenburg." Yeah, suffice to say, this didn't go over well. People were rightfully angry at this disrespectful transformation of a beloved figure for the sake of a cheap thrills analog horror video, and it's a shame because the video is very well made. Up until the grand reveal, it feels incredibly authentic, so to waste that talent on something in such poor taste is genuinely disheartening. Also, don't worry, in real life Karen Hillenburg is very much alive. As far as I can tell, her marriage was a very happy one, and Stephen was not pure evil. Or a murderer. The video was shortly taken down after immense backlash, but the silver lining to all of it is that the video blew up as a result of its notoriety, and while we may never know for sure if there's a direct causation for what would come to follow, we do know that there's nowhere to go but up from here. Around a month later, we got a creepypasta.
Wow, who would have fucking guessed?
Titled The Nickelodeon Resignation Incident, written by Lawfanda. The story is a retelling of a supposed TV hijacking that occurred on July 17, 2009, during Nickelodeon's attempt at an all-day and night Spongebob Spongebash marathon to celebrate the Yellow Cube's 10th anniversary. And initially it bears many similarities to its notorious older sibling. The general concept of a Nickelodeon hijacking, a big turning point in the story being a distorted, evil Spongebob with sunken-in black bags under his eyes, and the ending culminating in text above a crude depiction of him. But where these two stories greatly differ is the intention and identity of the intruder. At first, during the marathon, all goes well, until the video feed begins to glitch and distort. Viewers from kids and adults alike would rewind and record certain bugs that occurred, such as Help Wanted suddenly skipping 2 minutes forward after the scene introducing Spongebob himself was shown. These were assumed to be technical glitches, as one of the occurrences resulted in an on-screen graphic being placed on the screen. The graphic read, "Something has gone wrong and we are trying to fix it. We'll be back to normal as soon as we can. Sorry." After seeming to fix the issues of their broadcast, things continued to only get worse the second day of the marathon. Over time, viewers would make out very strange, almost frightening occurrences every 3 to 4 episodes, as if it were a specific pattern set up by someone before they had aired. The first instance was cited during the episode To Square Pants or Not to Square Pants. On a specific frame showing SpongeBob's face, the screen would freeze and complete silence could be heard. The frame would immediately cut to a heavily edited version. SpongeBob's facial expressions was swapped to a threateningly angry, out-of-character grin. His pupils were constricted, replaced with small dots completely devoid of iris color. His mouth was unnaturally wide and his teeth were tightly clenched. A distorted rumbling noise could be heard as the edited image was shown. These happenings continued at least 6 more times. These occurrences supposedly escalated in ferocity until the crescendo of the piece is reached. The broadcast fades to white while a crude depiction of SpongeBob fades into view, along with what reads like a manic, disjointed monologue playing out like a slideshow.
You are all so goddamn negative all the time. Day after day, hour after hour, you're always upset, expecting better. Think of the poor kids you brainwash with your festering attitudes. I'm ashamed to even be in the same room, no, the same planet as you are. Oh, you poor baby, poor pitiful you, sad over the truth. You are an adult, acting like an infant, and it makes me sick. Fuck all of you. Fuck it all. You are the reason art is dead.
Once the last line of text appeared on screen, a loud yet poor quality recording would play of what sounded like a mental breakdown. The sounds consisted of a middle-aged man grunting and groaning, with glass shattering and assorted objects being smashed near the microphone. This would continue to last for around 20 seconds before cutting. It was soon revealed that these incidents were meant to be a sick joke, concocted by a disgruntled employee named Armond Raphael Ramsey. It was speculated that he planned to quit working for Nick, but wanted to show the viewers how he felt. Armond was restrained in the Nickelodeon corporate offices and arrested on July 19, 2009. He was soon charged with computer tampering, sentenced to 4 years of probation, and fined $2,000 for the signal intrusions. Alright, so I'm sure you could tell already, but this creepypasta isn't very good. For its short runtime, it's littered with plot inconsistencies. It's incredibly overwritten for what it is, yet despite that, the story ends so suddenly you don't even realize it's ending until you've accidentally scrolled to the comments. And the funniest part of all is this is the second draft. The original version of the story, first posted online, is gone, wiped by its creator. Very curious to see how that version read.
Update, I had a chat with Lawfanda over Discord, and during that conversation I was sent the original draft of the Resignation incident. I hold in my hands lost media. Reading over it, the plot's exactly the same, the spelling's just worse, and it's even more overwritten.
I had this idea that Armond was so pissy at Nickelodeon, and he just wanted to get the message out already, so he kind of rushed through the hijacking, and he didn't even bother with his grammar, which is stupid. I don't know what I was thinking.
Oh, there's also an alternative version of the "You're the Reason Art is Dead" image, and it looks like this. So that's great.
But this is all to be expected. This is just another amongst the millions of Kids Show Had a Creepy Moment stories that have littered the internet for years now. The creator themselves has come out in condemnation of the story since, only leaving this version available for archival purposes. If you were to redo the story now, what would you do differently?
I'd probably portray SpongeBob as this kind of sort of wrinkly, sweaty fucking loser. which is, meant to represent Armond and what he thinks of himself staying here.
But for all its glaring flaws, there is potential here. The idea of a disgruntled, overworked Nickelodeon employee using the resources at their disposal to strike back at the company is, frankly, stupidly good. The description of the distorted, hijacked edition of Spongebob, if reined in a bit, could really work. It allows the reader's imagination to run wild with the idea, and this screenshot of the supposed rant from Armond genuinely still goes hard as fuck to this day. I love how it looks. If there was any story that would benefit greatly from a rework, it's this one. The potential was blazingly evident. So there it sat on the wiki, biding its time and waiting to have the light shined onto it that it rightfully deserved. And then Resignation Incident Remakes. For a short while, there was an endless amount of retakes and redos of Armond's personal spongy fight club, and the amount of ways that this initially simple plot was taken and reformed is staggering. My plan was originally to just cover all of them, but I soon discovered that this rabbit hole goes so deep that what was originally supposed to be a shorter little romp after the exhaustion that was the last one was quickly becoming the biggest, most bloated, and honestly boring thing that I'd ever written. So for the sake of brevity, I'm going to cover the two, I think, most accomplished versions, and then a snazzy little conclusion at the end with some more things that I think are worth noting. So I'm going with this one first, as right away it shows a deliberate attempt to handle the concepts at play with a level of production value and gravitas that the original story was just begging for. This was the video that not only introduced me to the creepypasta as a whole, but to the entire genre of Resignation Remakes. Me and my buddy Jeff came across this at random one night while I was over in Florida visiting him, and we had no context whatsoever, which led to one of the coolest viewing experiences I think I've ever had with a single YouTube video. And I'm being dead fucking serious. The video mostly plays beat for beat much like the original story, but with the framing device of being a fake video essay about the incident itself in-universe, which outside of being deliciously meta is a fresh direction to take this kind of tale. It echoes Crow 64 and how that whole story was initially delivered in such a well put together and unique way, taking the concepts laid out and fully exploring them with the depth they desperately needed, whilst along the way correcting the biggest plot hole in the original story. With the format of online video, instead of just being told that this creepy thing happened but there's no surviving evidence outside of this one screenshot so you'll just have to trust me, we're actually shown the entire progression, with initial brief interruptions before the marathon even starts, with this segment featuring iCarly, which made me grin as wide as the Cheshire Cat when I first saw it, and all the way down the ever-spiraling mental health of our main man Armond as he lays out his grievances with the company that did him so wrong. And that's another point. One of my biggest problems with the original story is how little detail we're given on Armond and why he chose to do what he did, but in this, we're given the context. We're told about the poor working conditions, the ever-mounting stresses, the unrelenting nature of working for Nickelodeon during that time. The big moment of the story, Armond's big supervillain monologue, is shown in all its glory, and while it loses a bit of its effect from clearly being voiced by the same person that does the video essay narration, I really think just showing the text with no narration at all or using a text-to-speech would not only up the eerie factor but make more sense in-universe, as Armond is probably not trying to get arrested. It still leaps and bounds above the original writing.
You are turned out into a monument of green!
Okay, that goes hard as fuck, I can't lie. You can really see the passion on the screen for this. It's an incredibly well put together piece of work that revels in the campiness of its source material. While I personally hold the opinion that the visuals in the second half lean too heavily into typical creepypasta soaked in hyper-realistic blood cliches, even those moments are displayed with such effort that while not being scary, it's so goddamn fun to watch. This whole thing is structured and paced like a thrill ride. I love it.
Not only do they visualize what happens in such a grotesquely, finely detailed way, but Armond actually, feels justified in the end. He's not a whiny bitch baby that projects his insecurities on a bunch of children when, he could just quit.
In my eyes, it is the perfect example of a creepypasta remixed and reimagined for a modern audience.
For today's snack break, I've decided to go with a Tedder original recipe, originally concocted by my boyfriend, called the Cheap Bitch Mocha. To prepare it, all you'll need is instant hot chocolate, instant coffee, milk, and everybody's favorite hot water. Add in 1 to 2 teaspoons of coffee, and then 1 heaped teaspoon of hot chocolate powder, maybe an extra half if you're feeling cheeky. And then of course add in your boiling water. Once that's done, give it a mix, really mix the fuck out of it. Mix the shit out of it. Just keep going, just don't stop. When that's done, you can add your milk and keep fucking stirring, keep going, really by Peep dolls, and they have a nice, tasty, delicious productivity enhancer. I have one of these every day, and I've been told that my liver will shut down in 3 months. Join me next time when I see the health benefits from consuming this Grimace.
The Resignation Incident documentary immediately sets itself apart in style by playing out almost like a piece of true crime from the depths of YouTube's algorithm. No voice acting or cheese to enjoy here. We're treated to the most in-depth explanation of Nickelodeon's working environment and Armond's motivations through text for a solid 5 or so minutes while eerie music drones in the background. It's pretty sensationalist, reading like the author was in the room with Armond, knowing his personal life to the points nobody making a YouTube video could possibly know. But honestly, it kind of works. People exploit real-life tragedies, spreading or even creating misinformation to farm views and clicks with real-life news stories all the time, so someone doing that for this in-universe makes a lot of sense. It really does feel like you've stumbled across some low-budget documentary from an alternate universe. The lack of voice acting paired with things like this supposed photo of Armond really works to unsettle the viewer. It's surprisingly effective. This version overall is far more grounded than the original story or Mozzarella's take. While that video is an insanely entertaining watch, sticking closer to the idea of Armond being an unhinged madman broadcasting his raging descent Ricardo Lopez style with interruptions that are as gore-heavy and visceral as possible, the documentary portrays Armond as someone exhausted, genuinely using the hijacking as a misguided attempt to tell the world about the abuse of himself and his peers. The glitches are more subtle, coming across as far more plausible, except for this part halfway through where it starts looking like a sin tragedy video. I'm not saying that this is the superior version or anything, not at all. I love both of these. It's just a different approach, and I think both excel at what they set out to do.
What I especially like about Rodrigo's version is how he makes Armond sound professional. He's just this grown man who is disgusted by the workplace's actions. Instead of art is dead, it's just Nick doesn't give a damn.
I think what really sells both of these is the audio design. Without the right audio, some of this stuff has the potential to just kind of fall flat, but with the nauseating soundscapes that play throughout, it complements what they're going for perfectly. You misspelled aggressive though, so 1 out of 10. Sorry, I don't make the rule. Also, why did you have to do voice acting for the evil monologue?
I won't reveal my identity, not now. That'll be for the authorities to figure out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll never recognize a British accent amongst the American workers at Nickelodeon. There's no way your cover's blown, Armond. You're all good, it's fine. One of my favorite things about this one is that it also dips its toes into unfiction ever so slightly. At the end of the video, there's a link to a supposed webpage about Armond and his exploits, and it actually works. There's a full page here with a shitload of supplementary text, and I'm sorry, that's just so fucking cool. I don't care if you think I'm a baby having keys jingled in front of me. I also like that in this version, after his work is done, Armond just straight up vanishes, never to be seen again. Like, this man really gave it his all and nuked his entire life instead of getting therapy. You know, this could really go on for hours. There's so many of these things, and they all do different things. I mainly just wanted to highlight how a trend like this, of taking a creepypasta which has potential at its core and turning it over to a community to play with and use to further their own creative aspirations, can result in some of the most interesting content out there. There's about 1 billion in one of these Resignation Incident videos, and while a lot of them are middling, outright bad even, I love to explore little microcosms like this, see how something so initially broad can be interpreted in so many different ways. Seeing all the different ways that people interpret Armond, his motivations, his temperament, if their version of the story wishes to paint him as a victim of industry or a madman lashing out for no good reason, it's such a treat to see a group form these kind of communal collages, all bouncing off each other and taking different ideas. Just to name drop some more standouts I enjoyed, the take by Ouija Alternate stands at an intimidating 40 minutes, but it has some really great moments at the beginning, when the intrusions first start. More so here than any others, you could really read how bitter and aggressive Armond is. He's relishing in the chaos he's creating, and later on the thing goes full-blown Mandela catalogue with archival phone calls trying to suss out the perpetrator. It's incredibly charming. This version by Riley Watson really goes off in a different direction by depicting Armond as an escaped criminal who murdered his wife and child before the Resignation Incident occurred. This information being portrayed through fake news stories, which are so much fun to watch.
Tonight, a former Nickelodeon employee is shot dead in front of the studio after refusing to comply with local law enforcement. Now been identified as Armond Raphael Ramsey, was responsible for the tragic murder of his wife Maeve Schmidt and his daughter Alicia Ramsey. He proceeded to break into his former house that very night,
where he then tied up his 2 victims and then set the house on fire, leaving them to die a slow, flesh-melting death.
See, you can do a SpongeBob dead wife plot without using real people. Then during the hijacking, Armond puts himself into the intrusions as a self-insert who kills SpongeBob and Patrick because he's just so fucking cool.
Oh, this shit's so kino.
And lastly, I want to mention this video by the Reswitch team, which I liked a lot as it constantly hops around different formats and ways the hijackings were archived, which is not only creative visually, but it also has this moment where SpongeBob is called out by main characters from other Nickelodeon shows because they were cancelled and he wasn't. It's fucking hysterical. I love it so much. Overall, I just love any internet horror trend that seems to have a real sense of camaraderie between creators, and the Resignation retakes reek of community. I've put together a little playlist linked down below in the description with some of my favorite entries, and if you have the time, you should definitely check them out. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment, like writing-wise or content-wise, that you'd want to ask people to check out?
I have 2 stories I'd like to recommend. The first one is Con Vulture, and it does delve into some very heavy subject matter. And the second one is my rewrite of Dead Bart. A lot of friends of mine told me that it was so bad that it was either really hard to rewrite or like flat out impossible to fix.
Show this lot some love, you know? It's stuff like this that walks so that stuff like that can run. And then there's stuff like this. And don't even get me started on that. God. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the SpongeBob something, the movie game? Yeah, it's pretty good, except for the driving levels. And don't try to 100% it because it's actually broken. You have to exploit glitches to beat some of the time trials. That one level with the shell is like designed like you gave a Dell desktop to a monkey with Parkinson's. Fuck that level. Good cutscenes though. I give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'm thinking a light 7. Where am I?